Many people say that they want to write a book, yet 9 out of every 10 people who start writing a book never finish it, leaving one of their biggest dreams unfulfilled. So, what is it about the 1 in 10 people who do finish writing their book? What do they have, and what drives them to complete their books, their plays, and their songs? Welcome to the Editor's Desk, where we explore their writing experiences, their motivations, and their struggles. And now, here are your hosts, author, writing coach, and self-publishing guide, Lynn Everard, and author, Louise Gomez. It's Thursday at 5:30 p.m. in South Florida, and that can only mean one of about 130,000 different things.
Oh, you're on a roll today.
But in this case, it means you're watching the Editor's Desk, and my name is Lynn Everard.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Editor's Desk. My name is Louise Gomez. You're on a roll today, Lynn, okay?
I know.
You're on a roll.
We just have to decide if we're going to use butter or not, right?
Okay.
So we live in a crazy world.
Oh.
How many times have we had that conversation?
Oh, yeah. 20 times.
So when we're faced with craziness, one of the best things we can do is return to that place of childlike wonder.
Wonder, absolutely. And you know, as adults, it comes so natural for kids, right? As adults, we get to access it, remember, and then access it, right? It's sometimes it's not natural sometimes, you know. We get to access it, so.
Absolutely, and that's something that our guest tonight has done so beautifully in a book written for children, but that will benefit adults just as much.
I love it.
And so we're going to go ahead and introduce Nandini Gosine-Mayrhoo. Hopefully I said that close to being right. Terrific. So welcome, Nandini, and we'd like to start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Fine, of course. My name is Nandini, and my corporate background was in wholesale banking. I lived and worked in London, England for 23 years, and I moved to Florida in 2013. Writing has always been a passion of mine. I thought that, you know, wholesale banking would be my career for life, and writing would just be something that I did as a hobby. The financial meltdown in 2008 was a true blessing in disguise. It redirected me to my true purpose in life, and I have been a freelance writer since that time. Not a children's book writer, just a freelance. You know, for web copy, I do ghostwriting, I do editing.
Well, you are a great children's book writer, because I have to tell you, I totally enjoyed that book. And it not only was great for kids, but great for adults too, right? I think it had a message for everyone. And I really enjoyed how the childlike wonder, like you say, was really, you know, she found these fairies and she spoke to trees. And it's like, trees have a message. Nature has a message. We just sometimes unconsciously live life forgetting that, you know. And reading that book reminded me that trees and plants and live, you know, everything has a message. So I really appreciated that book and the story.
Thank you, Louise.
Somewhere in the book it talks about that trees, one of the things we get from trees is paper. So in a very real sense, we're writing books on trees.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, yes. But that brings me to the point of why I wrote this book. Because as you can see, Nandi and the Music of the Plants. The Music of the Plants is a device that was created in an eco-community in northern Italy called Damanhur. And Damanhur is all about reuniting what they consider to be the 3 mother worlds, which is humanity, the plant world, and nature spirits. So I can't really remember exactly how and when I heard this device. It must have been on Facebook, I guess. But you know, when you hear something or see something and it just touches you so very deeply, and you know that it has to be a part of your life no matter what, that is the effect that this music had on me. I had to get a device. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I started to show it to people, to adults, and they were fascinated by it. But it really wasn't impacting them the way that it impacted me. And how it impacted me was that it made me very, very aware of my plant blindness. We see plants as ornaments around us. We do not recognize that the plant world has been on this planet for eons before us. They have so much more wisdom. They have witnessed this earth for so much longer than we humans have. We've been here for a split second of time compared to the plant world. So, that I think is the message that I wanted to bring through to children, and having those children then influence the adults around them and so influence the world around them to wake up to our plant blindness.
I like how she calls it plant blindness, because in reality, like I was just saying, sometimes, I'll speak for myself. I take it for granted. And then I have to remember, I'm driving down the road. I'm like, oh, yeah, I live in Florida. Let me be present to what I see. I see the palm trees. I see all this beautiful, foliage. Let me appreciate it. And so your book has created that sense of awareness, I think, in me, and makes me appreciate, what we have.
Yeah, a few years ago, I was visiting Thomasville, Georgia, and there's an oak tree in Thomasville that is almost 400 years old.
Wow.
And as you were talking, I was thinking about, wow, 400 years, what that tree must have witnessed.
Absolutely, and we do not think of that. We just see trees as inanimate objects when they are very, very animate. They are very wise. We do not think of that. We do not even acknowledge the trees and the plant world on a daily basis for providing us with the very air that we breathe. This is how plant blind we are. This is how disconnected we are from the natural world around us, of which we are part. But we exist as if we are apart from it rather than a part of it.
Yeah, it's definitely raising awareness, I would say, especially where we are, because I would imagine in the Amazon and where, respectfully, in those other countries and other continents, they do have a revered connection to them, a big community of people in the Amazon, and they're very aware.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's the indigenous cultures
Right.
around the world.
Right.
Worldwide, they have the wisdom. They are the ones who respect and live in harmony with the natural world.
Yes.
We call ourselves civilized, we call them uncivilized, and the big question is,
Right.
who is? Who is civilized and who is uncivilized? And it's interesting that you bring up the indigenous cultures around the world. I do plan a follow-up book to this. I do mention the Amazon forest in here. But I want to bring more awareness to indigenous cultures around the world and how their natural homes are under threat. There are governments who are trying to displace these indigenous cultures. These are the cultures that have preserved our world. Without them, we're lost. They have a wisdom that we absolutely need to carry us into the future, a better future.
And I loved how you put in the book, I'm going to paraphrase it, but I read something how you explained how in the Amazon, those trees are the lungs of the world.
Absolutely. We do not think like that.
Right. It was a great acknowledgement for me to be like, oh yes, they are.
It's interesting, we human beings are really curious creatures when you think about it. We know that climate change is an issue. We know that carbon in the atmosphere is an issue. And we have companies that are dedicating years and billions of dollars in research in coming up with means of capturing carbon.
I know.
What is the best
I know.
way? What is the best instrument that we have on this earth to capture carbon? and yet we want to create something. This is where we have put ourselves, as the most intelligent being on this planet, when sometimes I think even the smallest ant that we walk on could be more intelligent than we are.
And unfortunately, I would say a lot of that is unfortunately skewed because of big corporations. That's really the bottom line.
Yes, it's all about profit.
Profits.
Yeah,
Right.
profit. The only way that you can profit from a tree is when you cut it down. Never mind you're destroying your future and the future of your children.
Right.
Well, one of the things that really struck me was when we think about that, the lungs of the earth, and that humans and animals produce carbon dioxide as a byproduct of breathing, but the plants and the trees take in the carbon dioxide. And we're coming out of a time in our world where everybody felt they had to be this rugged individualist, and where we had to do everything on our own.
Right.
And now we're coming into an age of collaboration. And what better example of collaboration than the way that we are sharing breath with trees and plants?
Oh my God, mic drop, Lynn. That was so well said. It's true. What better collaboration is that?
Well, we need that collaboration. We need to understand that there is wisdom in the plant world, and they have something to teach us. We have to open our hearts. We were speaking about this before the show, Louise. We have been, quote, too much up in our heads for too long.
Yes.
We need to come back down into our hearts. And it's with our hearts that we could understand these things. Our heads were so conditioned. We are conditioned in so many ways that we can't even begin to understand. When we stop thinking with our heads and we start thinking and understanding with our hearts, our future will be better.
Agreed. Absolutely. And I can't wait to hear that music. I'm like a child. I want to hear that music.
Well, it's funny you said that, because I was just thinking that part of our marketing and teasing this show was asking, have you ever heard a plant sing? Right? That was a question that we asked.
Right.
And so we're coming up almost to the point in the show where we are going to actually get to have this experience for ourselves and share it with our audience of what is actually going on when plants sing.
Healing frequencies.
Yes.
I mean, the ultimate of healing
absolutely.
frequencies.
So, Nandini, would you begin the process now of explaining how this works? And then we're going to take a commercial in a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and we're going to actually see this in action.
Sure. The device is connected to the plant's roots and then to the plant's leaves, and is the natural electrical impedance between the roots and the leaves of the plant, because you have that constant exchange of energy. What the device does, it converts those electrical currents into musical notes. So if you think of it like a person playing a piano, the piano will not create music on its own. You need somebody to be tapping those keys for the piano to make the sound. So think of the plant as the piano, capable of the music, but you need the device to be able to draw that music out from the plant. I hope that makes sense.
That was a great explanation. I mean, that was great. I understood it perfectly well. That was a great analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and go to a commercial.
Yep.
And then when we come back, we will actually
Hear
have
that
an
music.
opportunity to hear plants sing.
Yes. Awesome.
Imagine rediscovering a past life.
Now imagine finding the person you shared it with.
And I just told all my friends, I'm like, you guys have to read this because I can't put it down. And I had not even gotten to the half of the book yet.
We are Lynn Everard and Louise Gomez, and we are the authors of the book, The Reuniting of Two Past Lives and the Unveiling of the 12 Sacred Lessons.
We invite you to purchase the book and discover the magic.
Welcome back to the editor's desk. Once again, we are your hosts.
I'm Louise Gomez.
And I'm Lynn Everard.
Now back to the show.
We're back, and just like we promised,
Yep.
we are going to have a demonstration of plants singing. I don't know if they have any albums or CDs out, but
There are actually, it's interesting that you say
Oh, that's
that.
funny.
If you just search on the internet, you will find recordings of plant music. One thing that is happening worldwide now is that musicians are actually holding concerts with the plants.
I love this.
They are recording it, and you can purchase that music. One thing that musicians do say that happens when they play with these plants is that the plants harmonize with them. You know, there is an exchange that is happening.
Wow. I know you had a couple of quotes you wanted to
Yeah,
share.
I
Please
just,
do.
there is a list on my website of some recommending reading for adults, because I want adults to be able to understand what is going on with the plant world, what the plant world has to teach us, and to then be able to have these conversations with their children in conjunction with their kids reading Nandi and the Music of the Plants. And one of the books that is recommended on my website is The Overstory by Richard Powers, and he's the Pulitzer Prize winning novelist. He won the prize for this book. It is absolutely fantastic, and I do recommend it to everyone. But I just have 3 quotes from the Overstory that I'd really like to share with you today, which I hope will bring into some context, the concepts that we're discussing before the break. So the first one is, this is not our world with trees in it. It is a world of trees where humans have just arrived. And this was the point that we were making earlier about we humans being here for just a split second of time compared to the plant world. No one sees trees. We see fruit, we see nuts, we see wood, we see shade, we see ornaments or pretty fall foliage, obstacles blocking the road or wrecking the ski slope, dark, threatening places that must be cleared. We see branches about to crush our roof. We see a cash crop, but trees are invisible. And that speaks to the point I was making about plant blindness. And the last very short quote that I'd like to share is that trees have been trying to reach us, but they speak on frequencies too low for people to hear. I would question, as Louise and I were questioning earlier before the show, whether it's frequencies that are too low or whether they're just too high. We don't know. But one thing that I do know is that this device, the Music of the Plants, it helps us to hear those frequencies as musical notes. Why music? Music is a universal language. It is something that touches each and every one of us. So I think I could go ahead now.
Please do. Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you want me to? I'll hold the mic for you. Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
No problem.
Yeah, so this is the device. And what the device does is that we have 2 connections. One is to the root of the plant, which I hope you can see. So this bit goes into the root.
Okay.
And then we have a connection to the leaf. Okay. So I'll turn on the speaker. That's just the sound that the device makes when you turn it on. And it has just picked up the electrical impedance that I was talking about and is converting it into musical notes. To my mind, this is the most healing experience, most healing sound that we can hear. This is the sound of nature. This is nature speaking to us. And I believe, as I have experienced, that when we listen to this music, deep wisdom is shared with us.
I agree. Wow, this is healing music. So I was saying, Lynn, I was mentioning to her before when we were talking, I said, maybe it's just that we're not, she said, it's a low vibration. I said, maybe it's a different dimension. We get to step into that dimension as we raise our levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd like to say that for anybody who may be interested in the device, you can go to my website, Nandi, N-A-N-D-I, Music of the Plants, MOTP. So nandimotp.org. There's a link there that would give you more information on the device. Of course, you can purchase my book. And what I've also done, because I really want to reach children with this book and some lessons that I've created. So I've created some fun, engaging lessons, very short lessons for the kids, sharing with them wisdom from the plant world. So questions like, did you know that trees can count? Did you know that trees have friends? Why are leaves green? And trees speak to each other. So these are the lessons that I really want to bring to the kids and to the adults as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how in the back of the book you made it interactive and you were asking questions and
Yes,
you were doing that.
I didn't really just want to tell a story, and then the children would put the book down and not really continue the conversation with themselves and with their parents. So what I've done, I've created a workbook at the back of the book with questions for the kids and questions for adults as well, to contemplate the concepts that are covered in the book, from the angle of the kids and from the angle of the parents.
So what kinds of responses have you gotten from people?
Everybody, they've told me that they really love the book and the kids love the book. Somebody who bought the book for her grandsons, she just made my day the other day. She messaged me and she said, she lives in Oregon, and she says, we're having a snow day today, and my grandson asked to read the Nandi book.
Oh, it's heartwarming, right?
Yeah, it just made my day. I just thought, I know that she reads a lot to her grandkids.
Yeah.
And for her grandson to specifically ask to read the Nandi book again.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
there
great.
are no words. Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know if you would know this answer or if it's even relevant, but let's say, for example, this particular plant, does it omit the same music if we were to get another plant that's the same
Specimen B.
specimen? Right, that's what I was going to thank you. Okay, so I'm on point. Uh-huh.
So I'll take the... So I'm now connected to the root in this plant. And what I didn't show on this one is that just for the, the conduction of the energy, we have a gel. If I can get it out of the bottle. That we'll put on the leaf.
Don't worry, kids. No plants were harmed in this.
Actually, the plant is probably saying thank you for touching me, feeling loved,
Yeah. So we're waiting for it to pick up the signal.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess just
Wow.
So you
That's
see how
beautiful.
that one is very different?
yeah.
It's a completely different energy.
I
And if
love
you
that.
think about it, this is peace lily.
Yeah.
So to my mind, the music that would come from peace lily would be just a little more calming than Dracaena. Dracaena is, the dragon plant, a little bit more fierce, and I think that's what we just heard.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret, each plant has
Of course.
a message for us, and we really need to, as I was saying, come down into our hearts to really appreciate what the plant world has to tell us.
Oh my God, I love orchids. You know, I'd love to have an orchid
Well,
concert.
Can you imagine the
Can you
music?
imagine like
Yes.
an orchid concert? I'd be in my
Right.
glory.
I was thinking about that. To have all of these lined up and have
Oh my
a
God.
concert. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
So,
amazing.
As we begin to get close to the end of the show, Nandini, what would you like to tell our audience about anything you might have coming up, ways that they can contact you, or is there a way for people to, set up a way to ask you questions?
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure
Okay,
people have.
I really invite everyone to contact me via my website. There is a contact form on there. I'd really like to speak to teachers, homeschooling parents. I would really like to get your feedback on, how this book can be incorporated into the lessons that you are sharing with the kids. So I'd really like to speak with schools, teachers, and homeschooling parents in particular. So please, everyone, just go to my website, nandimotp.org, and give me your feedback. Just let me know.
I love this. They can do like a kids concert, like I was just saying, like reading the book when they did that.
Yes.
They had a fundraiser for whatever. They could do like a concert in the school, right?
I don't know how much more time we have. I do have a short poem at the end of the book that I'd like to read if I could.
Yeah.
We have a couple of
You have a couple minutes.
Okay.
I would love for you to read that. That would be wonderful.
Just think it would be a nice way to end.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the poem is called Tree Music. A little fairy said to me, "The trees plays music, you see." I wondered if this was true, and if so, why no one knew. I know that we need the trees. Without them, life would be boring. I would not be able to breathe, and there would be no branches for climbing. But the trees are being cut for things we humans use. Maybe we're taking too much, for which there is no excuse. I want everyone to hear the tree music. Then maybe we will know that the trees have a lot to tell us, so we must let their music flow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we will include Nandini's information on the Editor's Desk Facebook page so that you'll be able to get to her website. And please make sure you join us next week when our guest will be Karina Felix, and she'll be talking with us about her book, Prayer Treatments for Health, Wealth, Peace, and Joy.
Prayer treatments for...
How are we going to fit that into a half-hour show?
That's a great question.
I guess we'll figure it out.
Yes.
That's the magic of what we do, right? So
Yes.
thank you all so much for joining us. We will look forward to seeing you once again next week on the Editor's Desk.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Even if you have never written a book, you are still an author. In fact, we all are. In every moment, each of us is writing our own unique story that we call our lives. Because many of us are, as in the lyrics of the Dan Hill song, Sometimes When We Touch, writers still trapped within our truth. If this is you, why not start writing your thoughts in a journal? It will help you get your truth on paper and could just be the start of your own book. And don't forget to join us here every week for the next edition of The Editor's Desk.